Welcome to the Creative Play and Podcast Network. Join us as we share our favorite RPGs, one-shot games, tabletop games, reviews, and convention panels. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, this is Kelly, aka Trixie from Ragnarok and Roll, assigned to Ragnarok Story, and Tilda Wimblewick from D&D Journey of the 5th Edition. First off, I would just like to say thank you to everyone for listening to our varied adventures, as well as for rating us on iTunes and RPGpodcast.com. If you haven't rated us yet, we would greatly appreciate it if you could. And if you're looking for more ways to support our efforts, we are now on Patreon, a great site where you can help us continue making more podcasts, as well as some special surprises for our patrons. If you can, please look us up at www.patreon.com/cppn. Every little bit helps. And again, thank you for listening.
All right, so here we are. Let's see, what did I drunkenly write down? Oh yes, completionism anxiety. Why do we watch movies we know are going to suck? And yes, just like it says in the long description, I did come up with this panel idea while buying my ticket to Indiana Jones 5.
Whose fault is that?
Well, that's the thing. So anyway, I'm Joe Palmer. I work on the schedule and help invite people in here. David?
David Brin. Hi. I've been around for a while. I'm the last ambulatory killer bee for one. Wow. That happened in the last couple of years. But we can talk about that. I have several sessions over the next during tomorrow. And 3 days ago, my wife Cheryl, also science fiction author, and I had the pleasure of going up to our alma mater, Caltech, in Pasadena, and seeing the world debut of my play. So that was
All right, we'll follow that.
I'm Wolf Forrest. I'm the intestinal parasite you can't get rid of. Enough said.
Cool. All right.
Let's say more.
How many TusCons have you been to, Wolf?
Since number 6, skipping a few. That's why I say I'm the intestinal parasite you can't get rid of.
All right, so, and here we are. Another Marvel movie just came out. Everyone's beating every franchise to death. Why are we watching this?
Because it beats the alternative.
Well, for one thing, the biggest problem is a problem that pervades human civilization, and that is that all throughout human history, royal and noble families have sent their dumbest sons off to where they could do the least harm to the family. And now that's how they
Was the priesthood for a while?
It was the priesthood, yes, it was the priesthood. So it's incredible that the last 100 years, since the 1920s, the number of movie producers who were taking, they said, here, take some money, go to Hollywood, mess around with starlets, play big shot, stay away from the family business. And I'm afraid that's a more serious theory than it sounds. It's meant to sound amusing, but it's also like one reason why imaginative things, new things, rarely happen. Like you get the same darn dystopia type things repeated over and over and over again. Now some of the series are pretty good. Some of them were once original. I mean, the original Raiders of the Lost Ark was pretty original stuff.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys have to say?
Well, I don't know. Have you ever seen a film with Charlton Heston called Secret of the Incas?
Well, I've also seen.
1954, he wears a fedora and a bomber jacket. He's searching for lost Incan treasure in South America. I don't know. Is there anything new under the sun?
No, it's the theological aspects that I found
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, right.
The Lost Ark.
Very nice.
And by the way, the Lost Ark could beat the Holy Grail with both hands tied.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about old shall we say power versus whippy.
Like anytime you have a face melting sequence in the film, you can't say anything bad about it.
Yes.
Indiana Jones is irreverent to the outcome of the movie.
But then, I mean, why? Right? Because I know if I didn't see Indy 5 in the theater, because I'd seen the other 4 in the theater. 2 of them were good, 2 of them sucked. 5's actually, it's alright. But I know if I hadn't seen that, it would have given me a rash. So I have to see the Indiana Jones movie in the theater.
Isn't that the completion part of the
Yeah.
anxiety? I mean,
What gives us this itch that we have to keep going? Yeah, and it's the same thing with
if you
book
get a
series,
bad
right?
pizza, do you throw out the last piece? I mean, you eat it eventually,
So many book series, they run out of steam,
Well,
and yet we're still buying it.
completionism is related to some other fetishes like connectionism. R2-D2 has to be in every freaking Star Wars thing, and the Darth Vader never remembers that he made C-3PO. They, of course, get their memories wiped all the time. It's all to explain this infantile thing that I think is the worst aspect of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. You had to just bring in all the old characters, even though their ages really don't work. So that's connectionism, which is similar.
Merchandising.
Huh?
It's merchandising.
Well, yeah, but it's also the fact that the director and the screenwriter don't have confidence in themselves, in their ability to take only a couple of the old characters and then make you fall in love with a whole bunch of original new ones. And there are some in Strange New Worlds. But the problem with, there are all sorts of systematic problems in Hollywood. That's why my most recent nonfiction book is called Science Fiction. Vivid Tomorrow's Science Fiction in Hollywood. Its principal point is, aside from this, and that is, because it has a lot of essays about various aspects. Its principal point is that we're probably alive today because of Hollywood science fiction. The dire warnings that became what I call self-preventing prophecies. The best examples being that many serving military officers at the time they saw Dr. Strangelove on the beach fail-safe testament the day after war games. They all said, "Oh, that could never happen." And then when they retired, they said, "Oh, it scared the living crap out of us," and we changed our procedures. Well, given how close we've come over the last 70 years, I'd have to say that we're alive because of Hollywood science fiction. The same is true of my friend Harry Harrison's Make Room got turned into a little ditty called Soylent Green. Recruited tens of millions of environmentalists. If we manage to squeeze past this crisis, it'll be because of those people. The China Syndrome, virus movies. Andromeda Strain. Speak up when you want to interrupt me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
I've been to enough conventions. You talk forever.
I'll fill in any silence.
Yeah.
But I also really like talkative people with ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they're talking about the Osiris Rex and the space debris being brought back and opened up first thing that came to my mind was Andromeda Strain.
Yeah.
Oh, well, ignoring the fact that dust particles on your roof of your house, about 1% of the dust particles, if you haven't had a fire or something recently, 1% of the dust particles on your roof of your house are micrometeorites. So,
but they did put in a lot of safety precautions, right? I mean, all that stuff that Osiris Rex picked up and got sealed up really, really good.
and then sealed, and then sealed.
Yeah.
Oh, remember the biological isolation garments the Apollo astronauts wore?
Yes.
The moon was considered, for all intents and purposes, dead biologically, but why take a chance?
Yeah, why take a
We don't know what can survive.
It's a little bit of drama.
Yeah. And now that we found water, maybe we were prescient in taking all those precautions, because who knows what can survive.
Exactly.
You know, the thing they talked about, well, we needed to process this thing right away. Well, we might be unleashing organisms that could be dangerous to us, or we don't know what effect our atmosphere will have on this creature's remains. So it goes back a long way.
Oh yeah, I mean, Creature from the Black Lagoon. No, we have to get it. We have to get it. It's like, it just killed a few people. Maybe we should back off. No, this is the find of the century.
People will pay money to see it. Why not? Money trumps everything.
I'm gonna throw another concept out here
Killed the beast.
that we know: hate watching.
All
Right?
monster movies are love stories.
We've all heard that thing where people watch something just to hate. Right, Star Wars fans are probably the cluster that are most hideously notorious about it. I believe I have a panel of why Star Wars fans are so toxic on Sunday. Just saying. All right, who here's hate watch stuff? Okay, and the rest of you are.
Yeah. But it's not so much hate watched. It's the fact that I watched all the movies. Look, I came at my attitude towards Star Wars honestly. I left the theater, The Empire Strikes Back, convinced that human civilization had one of the greatest epic storytellers ever. And I watched the Young Indiana Jones series, and I said, this guy really loves our civilization. Anybody ever seen them? Yeah. The Young Indiana Jones?
Yeah, those are really good.
They were just love odes to Western civilization. What the heck happened? I asked that once, and somebody shouted from the audience, she left him.
Yeah. It's not just Star Wars. I know what Gotham, right? The Batman show that was on Fox. I hate watched basically all of that. I went into it with high hopes, and by halfway through season 1, I was like, "Oh, this is trash."
And you kept watching it.
And I kept watching it.
I don't have time for that.
Technically, I don't either.
Well,
But
after Return of the Jedi, which I could fix with 20 alternate lines of dialogue, which is a whole other topic. Isn't there a movie you could save with 20 alternate lines of dialogue? I'm sure you can all think of them. But after that, I watched the prequels and then the sequels. And I am fortunate because I'm a child of the 60s, I can enter a flashback stone state at will. So I just entered the Revenge of the Sith and all those others, and I simply went, okay. And I was stoned, and come on. You can watch any of those stoned.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Your value judgments and everything are gone, but your appreciation of the one thing George Lucas is good at. Sure, fly a little ship inside a big ship and blow it up from the inside and get away really faster than the blast wave 5 times.
Of course, sometimes it pays off too. Now I'm thinking of Bates Motel. The first season of Bates Motel is a mess because everybody was making a different TV show. In the off season, before season 2, they said Vera Farmiga, who plays the mother, is making the show we should be making. And after that, the show's fantastic. So sometimes there's actually a payoff, but yeah, I highly recommend Bates Motel, but you're going to suffer through season 1. Season 1 is suffering.
You have to watch season 1 to watch season 2?
Yeah, you gotta know.
There's what's called movie recaps, actually. The concept was offensive at first, and then I realized it's on our queue now, these movie recaps.
Oh, yeah.
Because A, they can be a quick toe dip into something you loved, or B, it can be a way to, in a 10-minute recap, you can get 2 minutes in and say, oh, that sounds pretty good, and stop at the 2 minutes and then rent the movie. You haven't really ruined it for yourself. And number 3 is, oh God, I'm so curious about this piece of crap.
That's why I prefer anthology shows.
Yeah.
Self-contained, you don't have time to start asking questions like, what the hell happened in this part?
The Love, Death, and Robots guy is interested.
Yeah, I mean, American Horror Story.
I was just going to say.
Because there's one that's kind of borderline hate watch for me.
Right.
Because that show is so wild. Like every season, they're just throwing shit against the wall, and who knows? I mean, what is it? Sanitarium, right? There's a brief half of one scene where it's aliens, but that never gets revisited. And then there's the ghosts, and no, never mind. And that's why actually American Horror Story New York, which is about the AIDS epidemic when it first hit New York City, is actually really, really good. But I didn't really like it because I was tuning in for American Horror Story, and when I'm looking for a plot that's a mess. I want a plot done by 3 drunk monkeys when I watch American Horror Story. And the New York
era.
The New York season actually is well plotted and makes sense. So it's really good, but don't watch it if you're in an age.
Can't have that.
No.
Well, one of the points I make in Vivid Tomorrows is that, well, for one thing, back in the 1980s into the 90s, there was a curse. And it was called Third Movie Syndrome. And that was that there was at least 5 major science fiction franchises in which the first movie was, the second movie was like God's gift to human civilization. It was utterly fantastic. And then the third movie utterly betrayed everything about the whole morality and everything that was decent about the second. Who can name examples? Like one of the greatest movies ever made. Nicholas Myers, the man who saved Star Trek. What did he do? Wrath of Khan. One of the best movies ever made. And I mean movies, not science fiction. I met him, was able to tell him, and he did 4, which was not a great movie, but certainly rescued the franchise from the horrible number 3.
What was number 3's title?
Number 3 was Search for Spock. And one of the wonderful scenes in Star Trek 2 was when Kirk's ex-wife takes him into the chamber where she had done the Genesis. She said, I made this in the Matrix in a day. Can I cook? Or can't I? And it was the most Faustian moment in human literature. It was just basically saying, hey, we made ourselves better. We get to be in the workroom of creation.
We did that. And it gets slapped in the face because you instantly knew with that scene one of Kirk's complaints and why they broke up.
Yes, she's
like, can I cook? Yeah, no more complaining about my cooking.
Yeah. But the Star Trek 3 reflexively returns to one of the cliches of Hollywood, and that is the Frankenstein mythology. Thou shalt never stick thy hand into God's work, or it will turn into a monster, it will kill its creator, and therefore they killed and robbed of one of the great mythic heroes of all of our lives, the solace of having a son. of simply having a son, which we got in Star Trek too. Oh, but it can be worse. It can be worse. Did anybody really like Aliens? Sure. Gothic horror story about rape. How about Aliens? An action-adventure story about motherhood. There's never been a better movie about motherhood. Get away from her, you bitch! And I won't even say its name. The horrible thing that they inflicted, betraying absolutely every possible bargain they had made with the audience in Aliens. Some of you know what I'm talking about. I don't even want to talk about
The prison.
just absolute horrible betrayal of the first 5 minutes. So there's an example of completism.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because I keep watching alien movies. So.
Yeah, well, that third one was one of the most evil films ever. It was just plain evil. Of course, the most evil film I ever saw was something called Wizards by Ralph Bakshi. It was just evil in every single scene, obviously deliberate evil. Just like that he dared to make Nazi propaganda the other side's thing. You have these pretty pixie oppressors who have crammed generations and generations of these so-called mutants into a lightless valley for thousands of years, and then you see rolling open countryside everywhere that they could have shared. And you blame the mutants for trying to get out? Two brothers, one of them is a lazy lech who lets his talents go to waste, and the other is a family man who's helping the oppressed, and we're supposed to hate him.
Here's something Mom
How do you really feel?
I'm not going to be able to watch it the same.
Isn't part of it that Hollywood knows that they've got these huge canonical shows, they've got Star Wars, they've got Star Trek, and a certain amount of people are, give me my dope, give me my drug, I'll watch it no matter how bad it is.
There's that whole sequel thing, right? And it goes back a ways, but it's more recently that Hollywood's just turned into the sequel factory. It's like, well, we just keep juicing the orange. Yeah, and one of these. All right, let's see what David thinks. I always think, once I rewatched it, Joe Dante deserves an award for the way he deliberately poisoned the Gremlins franchise. The Gremlins 2 is a great movie, but if you go to see Gremlins 2 expecting more Gremlins, you're gonna hate it, because that's not what Gremlins 2 is. Gremlins 2 is a spoof of two things. One, the first movie, and two, sequels. Gremlins 2 mocks sequels mercilessly. And it is absolutely hilarious, and it's a great antidote after you've come home from watching the latest Marvel movie that you're like, why did I do that? Watch Gremlins 2. Because everything you're thinking, why did I do that? Joe Dante, yep, it's dumb. And to the fact that you did that in 1990 when Hollywood really hadn't gotten such bad sequelitis yet. Yeah, I mean, because there were a couple of branches. There was Star Wars and Star Trek. But even then, Star Wars had stopped at 3, and Trek was, I think, 5. I think 5 had just come out.
Well, now I'm wondering if the best movies are the ones that cannot possibly be procreating sequels because they're so unique and original.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that falls apart because it's got Plan 9 from Outer Space, which has never had a sequel.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for a sequel to Eraserhead.
Oh no!
Well, the point is, it's really hard to kill off the character and prevent a sequel because there's so many methods of resurrection.
Yeah.
So many ways to bring them back. Spider-Man was killed off along with half of humanity in the
half of everything.
Half of everything.
Well, the original Frankenstein guy, they brought him back.
But
although I gotta give him credit, I love when early in Son of Frankenstein, the third movie, when they're on the train going there, they actually throw shade at the audience. It blew me away because they're in there, and one of them says, "Half the people think the name of the monster is Frankenstein." I'm like, "Oh my God, you just threw shade at the audience. I love you." Right? Because we know most people do think, not in this room, of course.
And what are the
But outside of this room, everybody thinks the name of the monster is Frankenstein.
And what do the townspeople say when Wolf von Frankenstein gets off the train with his wife and young son? He says, "Baron Frankenstein, we come to meet you, not to greet you." They're already aware of the legacy and the reputation. It's like we don't make a distinction between you and the thing you created. You're all part of the same.
I have come to bury Caesar. Any questions so far?
Have we got a franchise you want to
Any embarrassing
This is
contributions you want to
an
make
intimate
about
con,
your
and
own?
therefore you guys are all ex officio
A
members.
franchise? How about the Friday the 13th?
Oh yeah, the horror franchises. I mean, that's really.
That's a whole other thing.
Well, no, but
How in the world, how many ways can Jamie Lee Curtis kill her brother?
well, he's not always a brother. It's
Look, I started out my whole novel called Sundiver that I tell my students when I teach writing, try to start with a murder mystery, no matter what genre you're going to be in. It's science fiction or romance or whatever, because a murder mystery will teach you discipline in the plot. In any other genre, if you get to a point where you realize you haven't plotted well, you can always, in a romance, add more. In a fantasy, you can add a few more dragons. In sci-fi, you can blow up something else. But in a murder mystery, when you get to whodunit, there are only three possible reactions. There's, huh? It wasn't adequately foreshadowed. There's, of course. It wasn't properly disguised. And the third possibility, and it's the one that proves that we're in a sadomasochistic relationship. The author's job is to make you hate yourself. The third response is, of course. If I had just paid a little more attention, you didn't want to have, you wanted that reaction. You wanted to tear the book in half, throw it out the window, and dive after it. So the point is that a murder mystery is, why did I get off on that? Sundiver, the murder victim, is dumped into the sun, which makes CSI really hard. So anyway, there's a new edition coming out. But I don't know if we answered your question.
Well,
oh yes, that's right.
Friday the 13th. One of the interesting things that happens now with the horror franchises, right, is they almost now always come with like crib sheets, right? Like the latest Halloween trilogy are sequels to the first movie, but nothing in between. And all of them are doing that. Let's make a sequel to the fourth movie, and we're everything else. Friday the 13th is interesting because that was the first one I think to really get self-mocking. Like Jason 10 is actually one of my favorite of all of those movies, and it's kind of like Gremlins 2. Jason 10 flat out mocks the entire series. I love when they put him in the hologram. It's like, we'll put him in a hologram of Crystal Lake and give him holographic teenagers to beat to death, and that will keep him under control.
It's okay, guys. He just wanted his machete.
Actually, Voyager, Star Trek Voyager had that was the plot element in one of the episodes, and then the next season they came back, and it didn't make sense how they met, but the holograms came back and said, "How come you treated us this way? Just because we're atomically disadvantaged." So, this whole expansion of tolerance is something that's been pushed by Star Trek, and 98% to the better and 2% to the So, you had something, sir.
Yes, I just wanted to say a point to something you mentioned earlier, which is how you like, short pieces and serials so much. One of the things I enjoyed streaming recently was Love, War, and Robots, which I don't know if anyone's seen, is an animated thing, and it's everything under the sun and every type of film media under the sun.
It's Love, Death, and Robots.
Or Love,
Death, and
Robots.
The leader of that anthology, which I think is one of the best in years. Certainly one of the most diverse and interesting and artistically beautiful. He's poking away at a couple of my short stories. So we'll see. But please continue your thought.
My thought was simply that really, you don't have time to find, fault or whatever. You have these short stories. It's like reading a great short story compilation. It's like going back and reading a Terry Carr compilation or something, because you've got all these different things coming together and they're just complete and it's satisfying in one.
One of the nice things about Love, Death, and Robots is that, just like Rod Serling, he's not afraid of occasionally giving you a happy or hopeful ending. Yeah. Whereas Charlie Brooker is a genius with Black Mirror, but it just gets tiresome knowing in advance that it's always going to be an anti-technological, anti-hope downer. I think he's brilliant. I think sometimes he makes very interesting statements. But it's important to know the distinction between the storytelling arc of a short story versus a novella versus a novel. And that is that a novel has to be like a fully satisfying movie. And that is, it has to have a third act that brings you to a satisfying conclusion. Even if both the movie and the novel are setups for sequels, nevertheless, a satisfying resolution, you're able to put the book down and know what happened. The short story is like a Twilight Zone episode, and that is, the objective is a feeling, a sense of, gosh, I wonder what would have happened next, so that you fantasize in the shower or even unable to sleep about what might have happened. It doesn't have a third act. And so my short story, Dr. Peck's Preschool, for example, where a husband insists that a teaching unit be installed in his wife's, abdomen during the pregnancy, so that the child can have early education. And she has a womb with a view. There's just a sort of a creepy, somewhat elevating moment. Let's just say that they use the fetuses for computational purposes and they give it transportation problems and he escapes. But in order to make it useful for a movie, I had to weave in foreshadowings and create a third act that had a satisfying arc. So she's one of the most unusual chase scenes you'd ever see. It was being brightly lit hospital, and she's in labor and she's waddling past dozens of people who would be happy to help her. And she's desperately seeking a broom closet to give birth in.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that would be a bringing it to round. Whereas a novella, and Poul Anderson, the greatest storyteller I ever. Poul Anderson's Hugos and Nebulas were all in the novella category or novelette category, and that is the length that a tribal storyteller would have told around the campfire. So it can be either way, either a hanging note in the air or a completed story, but it takes about 40 minutes, you see, to either read or recite. And that's the natural storytelling length. And that's why all of my most mythic stories were novellas. I did the novella novel thing that Poe Anderson kept doing, and you might have heard of one called The Postman.
It's interesting about Black Mirror, because I mean, it's run the franchise-itis sequel problem, right? I mean, was it season 5 that dropped earlier this year? And pretty much everybody hated it right from the start. There's like, oh, there's 2 good episodes, but we all watched it.
I didn't.
Oh.
I take it back. That became my show that I hated to watch because there was enough interest in it to keep me. But what David said was so true. It's just, it's going to be a down at the end versus, the robot shorts. Just completely captivated the creativity of some of those short episodes, and not knowing how long they're going to be and how what's going to go on,
and not knowing whether or not they're going to have a happier.
Is there and is there a conclusion that you can wrap your head around? And like you said, I watched some of those, and then I would be, what the hell is going to happen next? I want more because I want to know, does something happen?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to, because I started to hate Love, Death, Robots because it's like, man, this was amazing. Do we get any more? No. What?
Anybody on this side of the room?
I liked Justified, the series of that.
Oh, yeah.
Elmore Leonard.
Yeah.
And the thing was, the stories were sort of a repeat season to season, but the characters made it all.
Yeah.
Did you like the Ballad of Buster Scruggs?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it was very good. Of course, this was one of those cases where the unhappy ending one was really too heartbreaking. I really, really was heartbroken.
Yeah.
And that's good art. That's good art.
Yeah.
But the one I keep thinking about is the Old Prospector. It's really a beautiful anthology.
Yeah. Elmore Leonard was a master of characters.
Yeah.
And dialogue.
Anybody else? Yes, in the back.
He was a franchise.
You often read about the stuff Hollywood and what they're putting out, that they want to make money, and so they want to put out things that are, quote, safe, that made money before. Therefore, what's being put out is not original at all. Do you think that's true, or not generally not original?
I think the answer to that is duh.
Well, no, I don't see. I actually get really irritated at the grumpy old men, the Scorsese, Coppola, everybody, the old fart crowd. They're like, you can't do anything new and original anymore. So wait, have you guys watched a Wes Anderson movie? Because he still gets to keep making movies all the time, and they're all really freaking good, and they're all kind of weird, and they're all really, really original. And Francis Ford Coppola, your son wrote the freaking script for Wes Anderson's most recent movie. So maybe if you're having trouble getting movies made, Francis, talk to your son. He needs to know how to get it done.
What is
Asteroid City.
Asteroid City.
We just saw that. We just saw that. Very
I
weird.
want to see it. Yeah.
Very weird.
And Jeff Goldblum is an alien. That's what
So, I mean, the stuff is still out there. Now, it is difficult now because the main Hollywood machine they just are all about the franchise blockbusters, blockbusters. But
then
you gotta look in the
stuff
cracks.
Like Asteroid and Netflix,
Asteroid City.
Isn't that giving openings?
Yeah, some of it's getting up good. I mean, Wes Anderson's working on doing Netflix. He's doing shorts and short. Not quite shorts, usually about an hour stuff on Netflix every once in a while. And of course, we just had Oppenheimer make.
Not to interrupt. What about Queen's Gambit on Netflix?
Yeah.
That was
my
so
God.
different.
That is a good show.
And that was sophisticated storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, where was it? Who's a chess stand?
Yeah.
Well,
who would think Well, no, I play chess. I play speed chess. But you know what? It's not a spectator sport. How many people actually understand it? But they make chess seem vital. It reminded me of the story of something that came in the 2000s. It was a movie about ballet called Center Stage, right? And it made something that was way sort of out of the mainstream, but it grasped an audience.
Well, let's do be fair. There were reasons why people would give a script of the Queen's Gambit a look, because the book was written by Walter Tevis.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he did The Man Who Fell to Earth, and what else? There's another really big one.
Actually, I wasn't aware of the background. So I just...
Yeah.
No, Walter Tevis died way too young, but along the way, he was considered a William Goldman.
All right. Didn't know the background. I guess.
All right.
See, a lot of.
I highly recommend.
Oh yeah.
Novels.
Crap, he wrote The Hustler.
As a matter of fact, there's only one work that's better than the movie The Princess Bride. You know what it is? It's the book The Princess Bride. And it's a lot better. And I can say that without insulting the director or screenwriter of The Princess Bride, because he was also the author of the novel.
Yeah.
Right, I know that history.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what happens where we get the interesting original stuff that does still happen. You know, it's just like music. You gotta look under the surface, right? Because they're not doing $100 million commercial campaigns for Asteroid City. Yeah, they gotta know it's coming or no. There's a lot of the people have the hooks. I mean, like Wes Anderson, he's really, really smart as a director, and he understands the Hollywood system. So he knows his movies are going to make about $30 million. So he can come to Hollywood and say, give me $5 million, whole budget of the movie, including my director's fee. I will give you this movie. Okay, and you're not going to make a lot of money on it, but you're going to make profit on it. And he goes, and that's where I think like Francis Ford Coppola runs into the problem, and even Scorsese, right? Neither of them knows how to even make a movie for less than $200 million anymore. Yeah. And they're not going to turn profit. I mean, I love Flowers of the Killer Moon. Great movie. Scorsese's still an amazing director. It's a terrifyingly, unfortunately real story.
Do you ever have time to eat?
Well, now there's dinner movie theaters.
He eats in front of the TV.
Yeah, well, in this case, I go to the dinner movie theater, so I eat there. You know, but I mean, box office wise, the movie made nothing.
In my novel Earth, there's a major character who makes her living condensing famous movies. Maybe adding a scene, because if a customer wants an added scene or wants those 20 lines of altered dialogue, she'll change the movie. And this is coming. This is going to it's a real business coming soon. But I don't think any human could keep up with you. He must have a mate. He must be the test audience for this condensation service, because how could you watch all these movies?
You see, he has a special headset that has two monitors in front of him, so
It's
left side's listening to one.
Joe is a cyborg crash test.
There are definitely people who can quasi-watch a movie while getting plenty done.
Oh yeah. And I am one of those. At home, I mostly read and watch movies. You know, at the theater. Well, this is the dinner theater, so I watch Killer Moon during lunch.
Oh, cool.
I kind of want to pick up on your point when you were talking about the $30 million movie.
Yeah.
Because I think that movie's coming back. And the reason why I think that movie is going to start coming back now is because the cost of capital is now 5%, as opposed to when they were chasing blockbusters, the cost of capital was 0.5%.
Yeah.
So
they have to bring it back, or Hollywood is literally going to go bankrupt.
Because
they're releasing too many blockbusters. None of them are busting the block anymore.
Well, and what happened to the streaming wars? They got killed.
Yeah. Well, I don't even think it was the streaming. I mean, there's just so many good people forget, right? So blockbuster as a term came about because people literally lined up around the block to watch a movie. And in those days, you got one every couple of years. right? There was The Godfather, and then there wasn't really another blockbuster until Jaws. Then it sped up a little with Star Wars. Now they're hoping these are blockbusters, but Marvel's releasing 4 movies a year. You don't get 4 blockbusters a year.
No.
Just doesn't happen. Meanwhile, DC's also releasing 4 movies a year. And now you got a Star Wars movie all the time. There's no audience to keep 10 $200 million budget movies profitable.
The other thing is, it used to be, if you wanted to see a movie again, you went back to the theater.
Yeah.
Now you just wait a month or 2 and it's available on your streaming service.
Yeah.
So you're not driving up the tickets.
So Hollywood's going
I mean,
to
how
have
many
to
times did you
get back
go
to
see
the
You
small
young
budget.
whippersnapper. if my mother delivered us to a movie theater 10 minutes late, we just took up where it was and assumed we would never see those 10 minutes.
Now we'll watch the
Or what we normally would do is whenever her convenience was to drop us off, we entered the theater, interpolated, and maybe this was how I got some of my plot crafting ability, because I just worked out the plot of the first half of the movie. We stayed through the second feature and the cartoons. I'm embarrassed to say, even at the beginning, some newsreels. And until the movie started again, and we would nudge each other. This is where, do you remember this?
Oh, yeah.
This is where we came in.
Right.
But the whole notion of the low budget film is terribly important, and I was predicting by now that independent filmmakers would have a lot more power. Well, obviously they're going to. The whole AI thing is going to finally bring about what I predicted would happen 10 years ago, and that is you would have small communities of very skilled people, a skilled photographer, a skilled musician, a good musician and sound mixer, voice actors for stick figures even. I mean, people, if it's dramatically done and the voices are well done and the rhythms are good and the dialogue is especially good, people will weep over stick figures because you get caught up in the story. All of that revolving around the writer who knows what to write and what words to put in their mouths. Well, that hasn't happened yet, but I mean, this can happen.
Well, there's the other source, right? Know your local art house, right? If you're a Tucsonan and you want to watch those kind of movies that aren't Marvel blockbusters, follow the Loft on whatever social media you do and go there often.
But what he's
Go watch a
driving at
movie you've never
is
even heard of.
making movies.
Yeah.
And making them. My agent is really only interested in my tentpoles, the Uplift universe. Warner Brothers paid a lot of money to have the rights to do a remake TV series of The Postman, and they still haven't told me anything. And the odds are against it.
But the
killing people, and all the smaller things that I think would make me a name in that town. I have bunches that could be made for 5, 6, 7, maybe 2, 3. I have one set under the Oceans of Venus. I actually have a script for that. Now, Oceans of Venus. I'm revealing a trauma because in 1962, NASA killed, ripped the heart out of most of the boys in America.
All those fun stories from like the 40s and 50s.
By Mariner 2 proving that Venus, the clouds of Venus, didn't conceal dinosaurs, and especially the princesses.
Did you ever have that golden stamp book that had, planetary probes and stuff? And there was one called Game Hunt on Venus.
No.
And it had the guys with these bazooka-like things with this incredible-looking dinosaur. My God, this is. I'll have to bring it in and show it to you. And so I still have that golden stamp book. And it's like, yeah, you're right. It destroyed my childhood too. It's like, no.
But in any event, I have a script that's a love story adventure story set under the oceans of Venus 1,000 years from now.
So can I have oceans back?
Well, things will change.
Well, you send out robots that impact that lifeless world with 1 million comets, you're going to get oceans.
Alright, so we have 10 minutes left. Anybody have a franchise?
I gotta go and set up a presentation.
Oh, alright, yeah.
Oh, Wolf, give us a last remark before you.
Well, I don't know. It's like I would be too embarrassed to talk to you about all the horrible movies I sat through just because I thought it's gonna get better.
Yeah.
That's why.
You are among friends. You are among friends.
Without you, Wolf, we never would have seen Return of the Bee Girls.
I'm mentioning you tomorrow night in the presentation book, The Transparent Society.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Surveillance and science fiction.
Oh, when is that?
9 o'clock in this room.
9 o'clock tomorrow night.
And you can correct me and tell me why I screwed you over.
I'm doing a PowerPoint as well.
All right. Kate watched a sequel because I saw the preview for the original movie, Iron Sky. The preview was just so good. The movie was a steaming pile of crap.
Well,
Iron Sky.
No, it's a movie. It's a paper bag movie. You cannot watch Iron Sky without a paper bag over your head.
Yes.
Because that way you have deniability that you were the one in the room.
I would
laughing and farting while you're laughing.
I would argue that a plastic bag over your head just to end it.
I put it in David's Pretend You're Stoned. I mean, that movie is just...
Mystery
Iron
It is
Sky.
stupid. It is stupid as a post.
No, but it's
Iron
so...
Sky 2.
I'm
I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the thumbnail for it, and it has Hitler, reptilian Hitler, on a T-Rex. I'm going, I'm going to give this a shot.
I have not yet seen it. I have not yet seen that.
It is very
It's a train
critical of itself. It
Oh, yeah.
makes no sense.
Well, similarly,
It's just,
I
it went off the farm.
I want to see it.
And
Yeah, I mean, Iron Sky went off the rails, and then Iron Sky 2 actually self-spoofs itself.
and it's a wonderful movie.
I love it.
And I wish
I love
they gave
them
us
all.
the original one, like the trailer.
As a guy who's been spending part of his time, the last 12 years, advising NASA's Innovative and Advanced Concepts program, I know a fair amount about lunar technologies and the scam called Artemis. And so I really had a giggle when I saw the Iron Sky colony and its silo in Gothic letters, Helium-3, which, by the way, is the theme of an extremely good movie called Moon.
Yes.
Even though it's based on the premise of Helium-3, which I'm highly dubious about, it's a really good movie. But in any event, this is not
I like the big spacecraft set.
There are plenty of paper bag over your head movies out there, but some of them, the ones that are deliberate, are sometimes real funny. And some that were once paper bag movies are now great classics like Dark Star.
Yeah.
Oh, love that.
Yeah.
Well, so Benson, Arizona, how far away is it from here? Benson, Arizona, the same stars in your sky.
Just southeast of here.
But they all seem so much friendlier when we watch them, you and I. I told you I'd sing.
I got the same name.
You guys are great, and we'll be seeing you across the weekend. See you tomorrow.
And we'll all convene here again after show 6.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Play-In Podcast Network. If you enjoyed our show, please check out D&D Journey of the 5th Edition and Ragnarok Enroll a Scion Hero to Ragnarok Story. Also, check out our Patreon page for more content and behind-the-scenes things, as well as joining us for a one-shot game or two.
All right, is there anybody here who doesn't know this is David Brin? All right, there we go.
Where am I?
I don't know if it's
Hey, Joe. Good to see you again.
There was a film out there
That's
for
too long.
the same as you.
No, I'll always remember singing the Universe song.
Yes. The sun, and you and me, and all the stars that you can see are moving at 900 miles a day in a circular path around a galaxy called the Milky Way. Eric,
Oh, why didn't we record that?
I should hang out with guests of honor more often.
I'll burst into song on other occasions. It's up to you to decide whether that's a threat or a promise.
Can it be both?
You're either the hero or the villain then. That's the ones who break out into the spontaneous music.
One of the traditions is that you want a good villain, you give him a speech. If you want a good hero, the hero says, "Oh yeah?" And the archetype being Die Hard, of course.
Yeah.
Joe, are you going to give a speech then?
Nice. I like him.